Hey everyone, welcome to the first video of our AI Python series. In this video, we'll be diving into sentiment analysis using TextBlob library in Python. So sentiment analysis is a fascinating field that involves analyzing text to determine the sentiment expressed within it. So let's get started with the explanation. Sentiment analysis is a process that uses computational methods to identify and categorize opinions in text like reviews, tweets, or customer feedback. It helps us understand whether the sentiment expressed is positive, negative, or neutral. This work would be done through a method named polarity that that processes our data and tell its sentiment with its score between -1 to 1. So we'll discuss about that later. This There are different approaches to sentiment analysis, from rule-based methods to machine learning-based algorithms and techniques. In this video, we'll use TextBlob, a popular Python library which provides a simple and intuitive API for performing sentiment analysis. TextBlob relies on sentiment lexicon, which is a collection of words or phrases with associated sentiment scores. These scores can be positive, negative, or neutral. By comparing the words in the text with sentiment lexicon, TextBlob assigns a polarity score to indicate the overall sentiment of text. So let's get started with the coding part. So let's continue. But first, we need to install a module named TextBlob, which would be installed like this using pip command. It's like pip install TextBlob. Simple. Mine is already installed. You need to install it first if you haven't already. So that's important. From TextBlob module, we will import a class named TextBlob. The T and the B in the TextBlob are caps for the class. Then we'll create a function named getSentiment that takes a piece of text as input, create a TextBlob object, and retrieves the polarity of the sentiment using sentiment.polarity. Get sentiment, and the parameter would be passed as text. That would be the text that we'll work upon. Blob is equals to text blob, and blob actually contains everything that the text blob would do with text. So it's it has become a master of whatever we'll do with the text through text blob. We can just use this alias blob rather than text blob brackets text or dot text. I'm not aware of that right now. So now we'll create a variable named sentiment, which is like blob.sentiment.polarity. As sentiment would be obtained through polarity, and let me first explain what actually is polarity. Polarity is used to determine the sentiment through a score between -1 to 1. And the middle one is 0, of course. Then we have 0.5 of minus, and then we have 0.5 of plus. If the score is between -1 to -5, it's negative. If the score is greater than -5 and less than 0.5, it's neutral. And if the score is between -5.5 to 1, it's actually positive. So I hope you understand. There are several ways to show a polarity. If in this video we'll show the direct one, and in other methods you can even convert this into a percentage using some mathematical calculations. So let's continue with the code. If the sentiment what we get is greater than 0, or we'll say 0.5, it should return positive. If the sentiment basically is 0, the value of sentiment is 0. If sentiment is less than 0.5 and less than 0.5 and sentiment is greater than minus 0.5, then it should return. Okay, we can go with if the sentiment is greater than 0.5. We can define neutral in the else section too easily. If sentiment is greater than 0.5, it's positive. If the sentiment is less than minus minus 0.5, return negative, else return neutral. So if it's neutral, it means that it is smaller than 0.5 and greater than minus 0.5. And now we'll perform sentiment analysis by creating another function that in this function repeatedly prompts the user to enter a sentence. If the user types quit, the loop will break and the program will end. Otherwise, it calls get sentiment to determine the sentiment of input sentence and prints the result. So these both functions are working in a chain. Now let's create this method, this function, perform sentiment analysis. And we won't need any parameter for this one, so let's keep it blank. If it's while true means it's an infinite loop. Text is equals to, it will ask to enter a sentence using this prompt, enter a sentence or quit or print this quit to exit. Now let's end this prompt. And if the user types text in lowercase, if the user types quit, the program will simply break. And if it doesn't, then sentiment dot get sentiment will work on sentiment is equals to get sentiment, this method that we are using. So we'll store all the functionality of the get sentiment function in just one variable to ask for to perform in this function get sentiment and the text as its parameter. And then print sentiment and whatever sentiment we get. And we can actually make it a bit easy by actually doing like this. Print sentiment in percentage, like it will end it. So we'll use the square brackets rather. This would be easy in my opinion. It could perform like this sentiment. So we'll simply multiply the sentiment into 100. And we'll close this print sentence. I hope there's isn't any error yet. And now we'll print the perform sentiment analysis function. And now let's enter a sentence. Say the movie was fantastic. The sentiment is neutral. Wait, actually I didn't meant to multiply it by 100, so this is so wrong. We can make another variable for it. Sentiment in percentage is equals to sentiment in 200, simple. What we have to do is cut the sentence from here and paste it here. Here and remove the indentation, the useless one. Right. And the next thing we'll do is sentiment and then sentiment in verse. We are obtaining this from this get sentiment function. And now we'll print sentiment in verse is equals to sentiment. Right? First, then we'll continue again. Yes, this percentage close, and here we are done. Now we run this. We can module into the sentence. The movie was fantastic. Too many values to unpack. I changed a few things. What I did was sentiment percentage is equals to sentiment into 100, and after each positive, negative, and neutral, actually we can like, keep the sentiment is greater than 0, positive, sentiment is less than 0, negative, else neutral, not like 0.5 minus 0.5, no need for this one. And after each written method will just give a comma and show the sentiment percentage. Okay, cool. Now we can let's enter a sentence. Like the food was fantastic. The sentiment is positive. The sentiment percentage is 40%. And if we'll type quit, let's try typing quit, it will print. So this is 40% for now. If we'll train the model and make it better and better and better, it would give us more accurate answers. So accuracy actually is based on training. The more we'll train our data, the best output we'll get. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time.